Ever wondered if scrolling through Instagram makes you question your entire financial existence? You know what I'm talking about. That moment when someone posts their weekend getaway to Paris or their shiny new car, and suddenly you're lying awake at 3 in the morning, staring at your bank account, wondering if you're winning or losing at this whole money game. Tonight, we're going to uncover something that will completely change how you see your financial position in America. Before we dive in, this channel is all about helping you actually understand money so you can make calmer, smarter decisions for the next few decades. If that's what you want, hit a subscribe and let's get into it. Here's the thing that's going to shock you. The gap between what you think wealth looks like and what the numbers actually show is absolutely staggering. We've been fed this Hollywood version of rich and poor that has almost nothing to do with reality. And understanding these real numbers isn't just interesting trivia. This is your financial GPS. This is how you figure out where you actually stand and where you need to go next. Most people have no clue about the actual dollar amounts that separate different economic classes in America. They throw around terms like middle class and wealthy without any real understanding of what those words mean in your bank account. But today, that changes. We're going to walk through the exact net worth ranges that roughly define every economic layer from struggling to truly rich. Some of these numbers are going to make you feel amazing about your progress. Others might be a wake-up call that changes everything. Before we dive in, let me paint a picture that's going to blow your mind. The most recent Federal Reserve data shows that the typical American household has a net worth of about $190,000. That sounds pretty reasonable, right? But here's where it gets weird. The average net worth is over $1 million. Think about that for a second. The middle point is under $200,000, but the average is over $1 million. That's like saying half of all basketball players are shorter than 6 feet, but the average height is 8 feet. The math doesn't work unless you have some absolute giants pulling that average way up. And that's exactly what's happening with wealth in America. The concentration of money at the very top is so extreme that it completely warps all the averages. Picture this scenario. You're at a party with 100 people. 3 of those people control about 1/3 of all the pizza, drinks, snacks, and everything else combined. That's what wealth distribution looks like in America. A tiny slice of households control a massive share of everything valuable in the entire country. This concentration creates very distinct economic layers that aren't just made-up categories. These are real financial boundaries that determine where you can live, what opportunities your kids get, and how you experience stress about money. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up these economic tiers. Fair warning, some of these numbers might put you in a completely different class than you thought. First, a quick definition, because people get this confused all the time. When we talk about net worth, we're not talking about your salary. Net worth is everything you own minus everything you owe. House equity, retirement accounts, brokerage accounts, cash, businesses, minus your mortgage, student loans, car loans, credit cards, and other debts. Your income is what flows in every year. Your net worth is the pile that slowly grows or shrinks over time. If your total net worth falls between negative and about $25,000, you're technically in what economists would call the lower wealth tier. The typical household in this category has under $10,000 in total wealth. That's less than what many people spend on a vacation or a decent used car. Now, before you start feeling sorry for everyone here, remember that net worth captures people at all stages of life. A 22-year-old college graduate with student loans might have negative net worth, but they're obviously not stuck there forever. Same thing for someone who just went through a divorce or dealt with major medical bills. What really defines this economic layer isn't just the low numbers. It's the financial constraints that come with having limited resources. When you're in this category, everything becomes more expensive. You can't buy in bulk to save money. You can't put down big deposits to get better rates. You might not qualify for the best loan terms, assuming you can get approved at all. It's genuinely expensive to be poor in America, which makes climbing out particularly challenging. Moving up the ladder, the lower middle tier encompasses net worth between roughly $25,000 and $100,000. People here often include skilled workers, service employees, and others with steady jobs, but limited opportunities for major wealth building. They might own modest cars, have a small emergency fund, maybe a little in retirement accounts, but they're still vulnerable to economic shocks. Here's what makes this group interesting from a policy perspective. They often earn too much to qualify for government help, but not enough to feel financially secure. They're stuck in this middle ground where every financial decision has to be incredibly strategic. The true middle class, which most Americans consider the gold standard, tends to cluster roughly between $100,000 and $400,000 in net worth. The typical household here sits somewhere in the low to mid 200s. This represents what most people think of when they imagine financial success. These families typically own their homes or are building equity, have established retirement accounts, can afford modest vacations, and have enough stability to weather minor economic disruptions without falling into debt. But even within the middle class, there's huge variation. Someone at the lower end might still feel financial pressure around major purchases. Someone at the upper end might feel quite comfortable with multiple investment accounts beyond basic retirement savings. What unites this group is their ability to plan for the future while meeting current needs. They're not just surviving paycheck to paycheck, but they're also not wealthy enough to stop thinking about money altogether. Here's where things get really fascinating. The upper middle class, sometimes called the mass affluent, starts at around $400,000 in net worth and goes up to about $2.5 million. Many people in this category start feeling like they're actually wealthy, even though they're still not considered rich by American standards. This group includes what financial planners call Henrys, which stands for high earners, not rich yet. These are typically households earning well into six figures. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, successful managers, small business owners, and other professionals who've leveraged education and skills into high-paying careers. Yet, many upper-middle-class people don't feel wealthy at all, and that's because of lifestyle inflation. As their incomes increased over the years, so did their expenses. The modest apartment became a nice house, the reliable used car became a luxury SUV, regular dinner out became fine dining experiences. Before they knew it, they were earning 3 times what they made a decade ago, but somehow still felt like they were living paycheck to paycheck. This is one of the most common financial traps in America. People assume earning more automatically means having more, but that's only true if you don't increase spending proportionally. The upper middle class often falls into this trap because they can afford lifestyle upgrades that make them feel successful, but those same upgrades prevent them from building wealth as quickly as they could. The upper middle class also faces unique challenges. They don't qualify for government assistance even during hardships. They pay higher tax rates, and they're expected to fund their own retirement almost entirely, since Social Security will only replace a small percentage of their pre-retirement income. Moving beyond upper middle class, we enter what most people consider truly wealthy territory. The upper class, in net worth terms, typically starts somewhere in the low to mid 2 millions. But even here, there are dramatic variations. If you have, say, 2.5 to around 6 million in net worth, you're in the lower tier of the upper class. You're definitely wealthy by any reasonable standard, but you're not necessarily living the lifestyle most people associate with being rich. You might have a nice house in an expensive area, luxury cars, and extensive travel, but you're probably still working and still making financial decisions based on your budget, even if that budget is much larger than most people's. The real separation happens when we start talking about the top 1%. Depending on which data set you look at, you need somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 10 million in net worth to crack the top 1% of American households. Regardless of the exact threshold, reaching this level means achieving financial success that's almost incomprehensible to most Americans. You're not just wealthy, you're wealthy enough that your money makes more money than most people earn at their jobs. Your investment returns alone could fund comfortable middle-class lifestyles for multiple families. Then there's the top 0.1%, which requires tens of millions in net worth. Think 50 million and up. These are people who own successful businesses, inherited substantial family wealth, or made extremely successful high-risk investments. They have access to investment opportunities that regular wealthy people don't even know exist. private equity, venture capital, hedge funds, and other exclusive vehicles that require minimum investments in the millions. What's fascinating about American wealth distribution is how quickly the numbers escalate as you move up. The difference between middle class and upper middle class is a few hundred thousand, but the difference between upper middle class and entry upper class is in the millions. The difference between upper class and the ultra-wealthy is tens or hundreds of millions. This creates a situation where even wealthy people can feel financially insecure when they compare themselves to those above them. Here's something that might change how you think about all these numbers. Geographic location dramatically impacts what these wealth levels actually mean for your lifestyle. What puts you in the upper class in a small Tennessee town might only get you to middle class in San Francisco or New York City. In some northeastern states, you need over $1 million in annual income just to crack the top 1% of earners. But in lower cost states, that threshold can be less than half of that. This means someone with $2 million in net worth might live like royalty in a small Midwest town with a massive house and luxury cars. But that same $2 million in Manhattan might get you a modest apartment and a comfortable but not extravagant lifestyle. Understanding these geographic variations is crucial for making smart financial decisions. Some people spend entire careers chasing higher salaries in expensive cities, not realizing they might improve their standard of living by earning less money in a lower cost area. So, where does this leave you? Whether you're feeling encouraged about your progress or realizing you have more work to do, the most important thing is understanding that these categories aren't permanent destinations. People move between wealth categories all the time, and the factors determining which direction they move are often more within their control than they realize. The difference between staying stuck versus climbing to the next level often comes down to key financial behaviors that anyone can learn. The first behavior separating wealth builders from everyone else is understanding the difference between looking wealthy and being wealthy. This sounds obvious, but it's probably the most common money mistake Americans make. Social media has created this culture where everyone's trying to project success through purchases. People finance luxury cars they can't afford, buy houses that stretch budgets to the breaking point, and rack up credit card debt funding lifestyles that look impressive but prevent building real wealth. Meanwhile, many genuinely wealthy people drive modest cars, live in reasonable houses, and spend in ways that would surprise you. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. That house is worth more today, but compared to his net worth, it's basically nothing. He could literally buy a different mansion every day and not notice the financial impact. The point isn't that you should live like Warren Buffett. Most of us enjoy spending money on things we like. The point is that wealthy people understand the opportunity cost of their purchases. When they buy something expensive, they're not just thinking about whether they can afford the monthly payment. They're thinking about what that money could have grown into if invested instead. This mindset shift changes everything. Instead of asking, can I afford the payment? You start asking, what is this really going to cost me in future wealth? That expensive car payment might seem manageable month to month, but over time, it could represent hundreds of thousands in lost investment growth. The second behavior that separates wealth builders is automating their financial decisions. Wealthy people don't rely on willpower or motivation to save and invest. They set up systems that make wealth building happen automatically, regardless of how they feel on any given day. They pay themselves first by automatically moving money to savings and investments before they can spend it on anything else. The third behavior is understanding that income is not wealth. Having a high salary means nothing if you spend every dollar. Meanwhile, someone earning less but consistently saving and investing can build substantial wealth over time. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep and what you do with what you keep. The fourth behavior involves thinking in decades, not months or years. Wealth building is a long-term game. The decisions you make today compound over time into either massive wealth or ongoing financial stress. Every dollar you invest in your 20s has the potential to become many dollars by retirement through compound growth. Every dollar you waste on lifestyle inflation is future money you'll never have. The fifth behavior is continuous learning about money. Wealthy people treat financial education like a lifelong pursuit. They read books, take courses, work with advisors, and constantly look for ways to optimize their financial strategies. They understand that small improvements in knowledge can lead to massive improvements in results over time. These behaviors aren't complicated or mysterious. They're simple concepts that anyone can implement starting today. The challenge isn't understanding what to do. The challenge is actually doing it consistently over time while everyone around you is making different choices. Here's the reality about wealth building in America. It's not about luck, inheritance, or some secret strategy that only rich people know. It's about making better decisions more consistently than most people are willing to make. It's about prioritizing future financial freedom over current lifestyle upgrades. It's about understanding that every financial choice is a vote for the kind of life you want to have. The numbers we've discussed today aren't meant to discourage you or make you feel bad about where you currently stand. They're meant to give you a clear picture of what's actually possible and what it takes to get there. Whether you're starting with negative net worth or already in the millions, there's always a next level to reach and always strategies to improve your position. The most important thing to remember is that these wealth categories represent snapshots in time, not life sentence. The wealthy didn't get there by accident, and neither will you. It starts with understanding where you stand, deciding where you want to go, and then implementing the behaviors that will get you there. Your financial journey is unique to you, but the principles of wealth building are universal. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Focus on the behaviors that compound over time rather than get rich quick schemes that promise overnight success. Build systems that work automatically rather than relying on motivation that comes and goes. Most importantly, remember that building wealth isn't just about the numbers in your account. It's about creating options for yourself and your family. It's about reducing financial stress and increasing financial freedom. It's about being able to make choices based on what you want rather than what you can afford. If this episode helped you see your place on the wealth ladder a little more clearly and made money feel less like a mystery and more like a system you can learn, that's exactly what we do here. So keep learning, keep adjusting, and keep your focus on what you can control. The path from where you are now to where you want to be exists, and your next smart decision is the first step toward it.